Thank you all.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to reconcile, I guess, the two tracks of goals that we got going here, military action and then negotiated settlement. Secretary Hagel, you said we are not seeking to resolve the underlying conflict in Syria. Isn't that exactly what we're trying to do? Why aren't we trying to resolve that?
I was referring in my statement to the authorization to use military force. That specifically is not why we have come to the Congress, why the President asked for the Congress's support. As he has said, the authorization is for a very specific and focused military action.
But our stated goal really is to remove Assad and move to a negotiated settlement. Why wouldn't we use this opportunity, military action, to move toward that goal?
Well, that is one option. If those options would range from an invasion or a lot of military options on the table, what the President has said, what this authorization is about, is a limited authorization for a limited exercise. The goal of removing Assad from office, as the President has stated, is still the policy of this administration.
General Dempsey, how confident are you that you can calibrate, tailor, fine-tune military action that doesn't have spillover effects, so that we keep it to the limited stated goal of, I guess, degrading and deterring?
Well, the task was to do just that, to deter and degrade, and to be limited and focused in scope and duration. I mean, that's the task I've been given, and the task I've responded.
But how can you calibrate that?
Well, we can calibrate it on our side. There is always the risk of escalation on the other, but they have significantly limited capabilities to do so, and most of the intelligence informs us. We could talk about that in a closed session.
Well, what planning is being undertaken right now in case this does spin out of control? We were talking about the potential for boots on the ground. Secretary Kerry, I'm very glad to hear you're bringing into the equation what I think is our #1 national security interest, and that is those chemical weapons fall in the hands of al-Qaeda elements, or possibly even Hezbollah. What commitment do we have long term to make sure that doesn't happen? And if you have a very limited resolution here, how do we know that we will prevent that from happening?
Senator Johnson, this moment in time, and as the President has said, he is asking for a limited military response, recognizing that neither he nor most of America want to be dragged into a civil war in Syria.
But our goal is to get rid of Assad.
Our goal is to help the opposition, and there are lots of, I mean, you have to look overall. The President and I think all of us agree. I mean, can you imagine Assad running Syria? Can you imagine this man who has gassed his people?
I'm trying to reconcile why, if we're going to go in there militarily, if we're going to strike, why wouldn't we try and do some kind of knockout punch? Is it because we simply have no faith that there's anybody on the ground, the rebels, to take control of that situation?
No, absolutely.
I mean, is it not ready for regime change? Is that the problem?
No, Senator, that's not the reason. The reason is that the President is listening to the American people and has made a policy decision, in addition, that is not something that the United States of America needs to engage in or ought to engage in.
But
that is a much broader operation. Well, yeah, it is. It is, Senator. Is the Congress of the United States ready to pay for 30 days of 30,000 airstrikes to take out, and is there a legal justification for doing that? And you can run through a whole series of different questions here that are very serious about what you're talking about.
What do we know about the opposition? I mean, have we been tracking them for the last 2 years? I mean, it seemed like, and this is more of an impression I have as opposed to any exact knowledge, but it seems like initially the opposition was maybe more Western-leaning, more moderate, more democratic, and as time has gone by, it's degraded, become more infiltrated by al-Qaeda. Is that basically true, or to what extent has that happened?
No, that is actually basically not true. It's basically incorrect. The opposition has increasingly become more defined by its moderation, more defined by the breadth of its membership, and more defined by its adherence to sort of, a democratic process and to an all-inclusive minority-protecting constitution, which will be broad-based and secular with respect to the future of Syria.
Secretary Hagel,
that's very critical. Let me just finish. One other important about the opposition. It's my understanding, because I talked to the President of the Opposition yesterday. He's in Germany now. He's meeting with the German Parliament. He is coming to Great Britain. He'll be meeting with the Parliament in Great Britain, and he is prepared to come here as soon as those meetings are over in order to meet with you, and you can have an opportunity to talk to President Jarber and meet with the opposition, have a much better sense of who they are.
We'll appreciate that. Secretary Hagel, do you have a feel for the number of members of the opposition? I mean, how large is their force?
I don't know the numbers. Our intelligence communities have estimates of those numbers, but I think, as Secretary Kerry said, the momentum has shifted in the opinion of our intelligence community and others who are close to the situation.
I'm kind of a numbers guy. General Dempsey, do you know the force strength of the rebel forces?
I don't have them committed to memory, Senator.
But we have them. I can get.
Yeah, the intelligence community has that available. And we'll make it available tomorrow.
You also have a pretty good feel for how many really would be considered moderate versus elements of al-Qaeda?
I have seen documents that lay that out.
How do we know that Hezbollah, because they've been so cooperative with the Assad regime, how do we know that they already don't have access to chemical weapons? Do we have any feel for that at all?
I think we need to talk about that in our classified session. But let me just say to you that in terms of the opposition numbers, you see ranges up to 80, 90,000, 100,000 in total opposition. You see ranges from, well, I don't want to go into all the numbers, but in the tens of thousands in terms of operative, active combatants. I've seen some recent data on the numbers of the extremists in al-Nusra. They're actually lower than former expectations. I would also say to you, Syria historically has been secular. And the vast majority of Syrians, I believe, want to remain secular. It's our judgment that, and the judgment of our good friends who actually know a lot of this in many ways better than we do, because it's their region, their neighborhood. I'm talking about the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, the Turks, the Jordanians. They all believe that if you could have a fairly rapid transition, the secular component of Syria will reemerge, and you will isolate.
That tends to argue for a more robust response. Final question. You said this is the world's red line. I agree. So in the intervening time period before we potentially act here, how many additional countries will be supportive of this action? What is your goal? And what do we have right now? What is your goal?
Well, our goal is to have as broad a coalition in support of what we might do as is possible, and we're working that right now. But the military and the President are going to have to decide how many they actually want to have take part in the action. As I said, we already have more partners ready to do something kinetic than the military feels under this particular operation we need to effect that. Now, obviously, we want them to participate because we want it to be a broad coalition, but the final numbers will have to be decided by the President and by the specific operation that he defines together with you in the authorization.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to tomorrow's briefing. Thanks.
Thank you. Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chairman Menendez. I'd like to thank Secretaries Kerry and Hagel and Chairman Dempsey for your service to our nation and for your testimony.